different knives, namely knives with handles and finger guards. That's what I do, but if you buy just throwing knives that have no handles or such, then you don't need to watch this section. But if you buy varied knives, like Bowie knives and such, the handles and finger guards will break away eventually, all at once or a little at a time. So this section, I just go over what I do to turn these knives into good throwing knives. Replace the handle, namely. Okay, I'll just put it all together here in one video. Alright, here's one of my throwing knives that I'm going to be taking the handle off so I can put on a new handle that is much better suited for a throwing knife. You can see the abuse this is taking. I've already started to remove this. Real high-tech operation here, you know. What you're going to need is a rusty chisel. Maybe a large screwdriver will work. And a rusty hammer. Alright, so let's take this off. Not much to it. Really, not much to it. Yeah, normally I'd say you should wear gloves doing this. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to wear gloves doing this, because this chisel's pretty sharp, even though it's kind of old. So, yeah, wear gloves, safety glasses, all that. Kevlar if you have it. Actually, the real threat of getting cut is these edges here, where I've used this particular knife to hammer on the split wood, and it's kind of frayed the edges here, feathered them. I'm gonna have to file those down, smooth them out. Well, there's one. Let's see if I can just hammer these others right out. Sure enough. Piece of cake. And there it is. And then this just slides off. Alright, yeah, he probably should wear gloves. I probably should have, because I could have gotten caught. Not so much from that, but from these edges are actually kind of sharp. So, you know, you don't need this for a throwing knife, for one thing. I don't know why this is on his big Bowie knife. I paid like $22 for it. I think it's made in Pakistan, but it's really big and heavy, and it's rather a soft carbon steel. It'll bend before it breaks, so it's really very well suited for throwing, as far as I'm concerned. These, I think this would be like just for show. You know, like you'd want something like this if you were like in a knife fight, which hopefully you never will be, because then these would prevent the knife from your opponent's knife from sliding up and cutting your hands, which I've read happens a lot. Sword fights and stuff like that. That's why they have these, to protect your hands from your opponent's blade. But we don't have to worry about that. So there's that. I showed you how to do the braid with 550 cord, and next I'll show you how to make the handle a special way that I do, my own technique. It'll shrink fit right on there, it'll look real nice, and it'll hold up for years. All the throwing and abuse you can put it through. So stay tuned for that video. I thought I would include this. I think it's important. Like I said, this knife, you know, it's taken a little bit of abuse. I mean, I only paid a little over $20 for it. That's the beauty about it. Very versatile. But you might be able to see some feathering from me using a hammer on it at times to split wood. And actually, right here is pretty sharp. I think to help make your throwing knives, you don't want to cut yourself. I think you could get cut pretty badly, honestly. I haven't. I've been lucky, but in my many years of throwing knives, I've never thrown a knife, you know, to where I've cut my hand with the blade. But I think it's possible. It's definitely possible. I've had a few throwing knives that I've gotten like this right out of the box. They were like razor sharp. And actually, you know, if that's a concern, you can always resharpen them later, but maybe take a little bit of the edge off if you're worried about it. But with this, the feathering here, I'm definitely going to want to do something with that, because if I'm throwing it like this, it could conceivably give me a pretty nasty cut. So yeah, rusty file. Everything I have is rusty. Well, almost everything. If it's been out in my garage at his barn, it's been a very, very wet year here where I live. Everything is soaked. So yeah, it doesn't hurt to make sure you take any edges off. With this, definitely with this handle, because we're going to be using parachute cord to wrap around here. It's going to be very nice, you'll see. But you definitely don't want any edges on there to cut the parachute cord, do you? No, you don't. Parachute cord or whatever else you might use. But yes, get something and get all the edges off. Smooth it out. Very soft steel. Mosquitoes are eating me alive right now. Got myself. See, I did cut myself. I tell you, not on the blade either. On this side where I've been hitting it with a hammer, splitting wood on some camp outs and stuff. Again, if you're concerned about your throwing knife being too sharp to cut you, so then just dull it. This is the part we're concerned about. This is a business end for a throwing knife. Alright, you get the point. Hello, I'm gonna show you in this video how I made a very durable, very good handle for my throwing knives using 550 parachute cord. I believe it's nylon. Not sure. This is pretty cheap. I paid a little over $3 for 50 feet of it at Walmart. You can get it in all kinds of colors. You know, it's pretty inexpensive stuff. Mix and match. So, we're going to wind up making this square knot braid which is going to go on this handle. Now, I got to tell you that I have, this is the third one of these knives I've owned. And the other two, I made this square knot braided handle for it. The way I do it is a lot better than anything I've found online. I've got a little technique that I will reveal in the next video when I put the braid on here that really makes it almost like a shrink to fit, really tight, good looking, durable handle, and it won't come off no matter what kind of abuse you put this knife through. And I'm going to show you how to do that. You know, you got to ask, will parachute cord shrink? Yes, it will, given moisture and heat, and we're going to use that to our advantage. All right, for this this particular knot, there's a formula I've come up with to figure out how much cord you're going to need to do a handle, and I figured that out just trial and error mostly, but then stopped and kind of put my head to it. And I know for this particular knife, I've done 2 of these already, and it took a little less than 2 feet of this braid to do this handle. So more is better than too little. If you make more braided cord than you need for your project, you can always remove some, but if you make too little, you can't do anything with that. You know, so aim high, you know, for the cord lengths. And I am not a math teacher. I tried to explain the formula for this and fudged it all up. So I'm going to write the formula down, and the formula being, if I want 2 feet of braided cord for this project, how much line do I need? And I'm going to write that down and present it right now. All right. Now, how do you make this braid? You get 2 equal lengths of the cord, whatever length you come up with. I just took, you know, about 3 feet here just to demonstrate. So, one thing I do that you probably already know is I torch these because they'll get pretty frayed up and pretty messy real quick. So, taking care not to burn yourself or anything. This is plastic, basically. It behaves like plastic. A little mug of water, put it out. It's still kind of warm, doesn't burn. And then I just always do this so you don't wind up with a ball at the end of it. Holding it over the water. This will leave you a nasty blister if you don't use the water. I know. Trust me, I know. Yep. You know, putting a handle like this on a knife, why do it? I mean, you could just throw this knife without a handle, or I could just put duct tape on it, you know. Yeah, you don't have to. The knife throws just fine without a handle on it. But it's better with the handle, and this is just kind of a way to personalize your sport too. Because the handles that come with these knives that weren't made to be throwing knives, but make great throwing knives just the same, they will break off. All of them will break off. I've never seen a knife hold up. With one exception, a K-bar handle holds up pretty well, as does the old Air Force pilot's knife, survival knife, made by Camillus, but now it's made by Ontario Knives, as is the K-bar. Those handles hold up pretty well. All right, let's get on to this. Now, I've shown you the formula for how much cord you're going to need for your project. If you're doing a knife handle this big, you're going to need roughly 2 feet of braid. That is to say, you're going to need 2 feet of braid, the braid itself, and you're going to want to have 5 or 6 inches or so. You don't have to be precise, like this on the end. You know, maybe a little more than this, but you're going to want some left over on the end, both ends, not just one. So 2 feet of braid for this knife, with both ends having some left over. About that much left over. That's what you're shooting for. For a big project like this, this is a pretty big handle. Alright, get that out of here. Let's get to the braid. So I've got 2 equal lengths just for this demonstration. And I'll take one of these, hang it over, bring the other 2 these ends through. I'll need a little more than that. About like that. Whatever you'll come up with. And this was like a rack I made for drying tortillas, when I used to fry up my own tortillas for tacos and such. I made this rack, but you know, you're gonna need something to hang it over, obviously. If you got a nice taco rack, I guess you're all set. So now you take your, take your others, you know, and match up the ends so they're equal lengths. Drape it over. It's just parachute cord, you know, if you mess it up, you know, it's not going to break the bank, hopefully. Alright, so, well, one thing while it's on my mind, I don't want to leave out, concerning the knives. If you do this with this knife, like I said, I bought 3 of these. It's made in Pakistan, and it costs just a little over $20 at the time of this video. It's a large bowie in full tang, and if you Google large bowie full tang, you come up with a knife like this with a wooden handle and a brass finger guard for under $30. That's the same knife. But if you do your knives this way, take a file and smooth off all the ends. Definitely smooth it off with a file, and to include these ends as well. So smooth it all up with a file so it doesn't sever the cord or cause any cuts. So then I have these 2 in the center. These 2 will represent how long my braid is, and you're going to want to plan it so that you've got some left over on this end that's not a braid, and some left over on this end that's not a braid. And to take this end, you're going to have to cut that at the end, and I'll show you, and just unwind it till you get some left over. These 2 pieces don't move. They stay the same, and take care to make sure they don't cross over during the braiding process. This is a square knot braid, and this is what you do. You start with either end, but I'll start with the left, pass it over the 2 standing ends, take the right, pass the right under the 2 standing ends and up through, and then tie it, dress it up. I started with the left, so the next is going to be the right. Okay, bring the left up underneath and through, tie it. So now I'm going to go back to the left. It alternates. You may already know how to do this. I didn't. I didn't know how to do this until I did those other 2 knives a few years back. And for the life of me, I don't know where they're at. I've moved a couple times, and they were unfortunately lost. And I've taken them out digging. I've done a lot of gardening with those knives, and I throw with them and dig and all whatever. They're probably laying out in the dirt somewhere lost. So I'm going to redo this all over again. And all right, dress it up. Taking care to make sure these don't cross. Once you get doing this, it goes by pretty quick. Kind of relaxing in a way. Something to do with your hands. I guess like knitting or something, I don't know. Yeah, why do this? It's just to add some personalization to your craft, and actually functionality too. It's a good handle. Feels good in the hand. Doesn't slip. It's not going to slip or anything. Get it wet, whatever. Throw it, pound things. The handle will hold up. Better than duct tape, because I've done duct tape handles. They work just fine for a little while. Then they start looking really crappy, and eventually you got to take the whole thing off or it'll just come off. This is a much better way to do it. Okay, now it's something, you probably already figured this out. Let's say I get up and I go to the bathroom, or I go get a beer or something manly like that, or whatever, you know, get a phone call. I come back and I forget what was the last one I did, because they have to alternate, you know. Well, see the loop here, and this one's coming up through, and this one's going underneath the loop. The side with the loop gets passed over. In this case, it's the right side, so the right side's going to come up over, and we're going to do this. Now it's the, or I'm sorry, I meant the left side. Now it's the right side. Kind of awkward doing this with a camera. Now it's back to the left. It always alternates, taking care to make sure these don't cross. So you'll know, because I'll deliberately do it wrong. All right, I'll do it wrong this time, and we'll see how it looks. And you'll know it just won't look right, and you go, "Oh, what did I do? It doesn't look quite right, does it?" No. So you just untie it. It's just cord. So like I said, I'm going to want, for the knife handle project, you're going to want to leave yourself some on the ends, all right? And in order to get some on the end here, the only way I'm going to get that is to untie it and unravel a bunch of it. So if you want 2 feet of braided cord, you're going to have to make about, you know, you're going to have to figure in, I said for, what did I say? For this, let's say I use 2 feet of cord to do this handle. Braid, that is. Not 2 feet of cord. 2 feet of braided cord. I figured I'm going to need roughly 2 16-foot lengths of cord. But I'm going to have to add to that. I hate doing math. Yeah. Just plan enough so that you can unravel about this much on this end to get some left over. All right. So that's about where I'm going to stop on this end. Obviously this isn't long enough to braid anything except maybe a keychain, which would be nice. I've already done that. So now I'm going to undo this, and I'm going to have to unravel it to get my working ends, you know, loose ends. I would not be throwing this knife. It's a hen and rooster made in Solingen, Germany. It's antique. If I threw this knife, it would fall apart after about 2 or 3 throws. So it's a really nice knife. Not every knife is suitable for, you could throw every knife, but if you don't want to break, you get what I'm saying. I wouldn't throw this knife if I didn't have to. Quite sharp. So I got this. This is what I wound up with. I'm going to need some, doesn't have to be that precise, but I'm going to need some on this end as well to help secure it to the knife. I think that would probably be enough. Let's see, probably about, I mean, these ends are too long here, so I'd wind up cutting this off. You're going to need about 5 inches or so on these. So again, you take your glass of water and torch these ends, you know, so that they're not fraying. Can't have that. Right, so I do that to the rest of these. I think that's it. Again, I'll show the formula for this if you want to do a knife handle this way. You want to figure out how much cord you're going to need to make this square knot braid. I'll flash the formula up again at the close of this. Alright, thank you. Stay tuned for the next. Alright, it's time to braid this square knot. Braid in around this full tang on this knife handle. I've soaked this thing in some hot water. Actually, it was in boiling water at first, but not that hot now. For about 5 minutes. And I've taken a file and I've filed down any rough edges all the way around to include here. Alright, so I've got a flathead screwdriver. It's what I'm using to help me weave this, so you'll see how that works once I get going. And a little bit of work. It is a little bit of work. And you may perfect this beyond what I've got. This is about the 3rd time I've done this, but the first times worked so nice. Give those 2 end ones to get it nice and tight so it doesn't come apart. It worked so nice, I thought it was definitely worth doing again. So, alright, I'm going to be weaving these 2 inner ones around the ring here on the back of this, you'll see. Now, you're going to have to get this in there without, it's going to be a little bit of work, but you've got to open this up, you've got to work them to get them to open up, to take that through. You're not going to break it. Just get the screwdriver through there and open her up. Big enough that you could pass this through it. I got a set of needle nose pliers to help out. Whatever it takes. Maybe a bigger screwdriver might make a bigger opening, I'm thinking. Alright, so there she's through one. Get her through another. Her. I don't know why I put a gender to it. Oops, sorry. Kind of awkward working around the camera. Once this thing dries, it's going to hold on to this line like an octopus on steroids. I could come up with other analogies, but they wouldn't be very fitting. Decent. Yeah, use a little bit of force. Get this opened up. I'm just going to, this little piece here, I'm just going to tuck it up underneath there out of sight. Make it disappear. Make it go away. Once again, it's a lot easier to do when you don't have a camera tripod between you and what you're doing. Alright, so that's that end. I'm going to take the other braid, this one, and I'm just going to just this point I could kind of lay into it a bit and stretch her tight. All right. Just braid that around any way you want to get it through there. Just get her through. Alright, we'll see how it turns out. This is how I did my other ones. Just start braiding these through. Wherever you can fit them. These are the two inner ones I'm working with right now. The whole thing will shrink up quite a bit. It won't be this massive. Alright, now I'm just going to cover that one up with this. Stretch her tight. Pull it tight. I'm just going to weave these through. Anywhere you can put them, honestly. You can get fancier than I am. I'm just going to weave them through and they'll dry up and hold everything on. It looks like I could have used another couple inches on this. So I had 22.5 inches of dry braided cord. I probably should have gone with 2 feet even for this. But it'll go. Part of the learning process. These are the two longer ones on the end, and I'm passing them lengthwise. You use a little bit of force on this, make it cooperate. It's just parachute cord. You're not going to wreck it unless you take a sharp edge to it or something. It'll give. Takes a little bit of work, a little bit of cajoling to get it to go. Oops. You know, you could take this method and build on it. You know, do what you want with it. I'm just sharing with you what worked for me. My dog doesn't like something. Another dog. Puppy, calm down. He's like 6 years old and I still call him Puppy. Because he still messes on the floor occasionally. I'm just going to tuck this in a second thought. Put it right through this. One more pass through. Connect it to the last wind here. So the whole thing's kind of yeah, there's a lot to watch, but now I'm going to just hide this up underneath here. Pass it right through. Find a home for it. Find a home for it. Once it dries, everything will tighten up and shrink. That's the plan. That's the plan. Alright. So I'm going to do the same with the rest of this. Everything left. It's already on there pretty tight. I could have used another couple inches of braid here. Honestly, I could have gone with 2 feet, and I should have gone with 2 feet, but I like a slider up there. There we go. Alright, I'll get back to you when this is done. Well, this is what I ended up with. Cord's still a little bit wet. It looks pretty gnarly. Between using this to pry open holes and this, I was able to weave all this in there. Yeah, it doesn't look too pretty really, but it had a nice feel to it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the oven, and I'm going to get it wet again and put it in the oven and dry it out like it. I think I'm going to put it at about 225 and leave it in there for a good maybe 45 minutes and see what happens to this. So I'll get back to you 45 minutes later at 225 Fahrenheit. Okay, I put my knife in the oven. The handle, I got it wet again. The cord, just dunked it in a pot of hot water. And let's see how it goes. I'll come back in maybe an hour, 45 minutes or an hour. It's at 230 degrees Fahrenheit. So give it a while. I figure an hour ought to dry it out real nice. See how it turns out. This is the same knife a year and a half, well, not quite a year and a half, a little over a year later. And it's held up very well. I've been throwing this knife a lot since I put this on there, and this is really pretty strong. None of it came loose. It's not very pretty, as you can see. Hey, this is like the 4th time I've done this, but I will tell you, none of that has come loose, none of it. And it's pretty tight on here. It will continue to shrink, and it makes a pretty good handle, honestly. Now, this is holding this end on, but it doesn't slide really at all. Doesn't slide around on here. But you know, you might possibly want to have a hole drilled in here and maybe braid some through, and that would really hold it in place. So use your imagination, but you see I've got a little room here and a little room on this end. I probably could have gotten away with another braid, you know, another strand, another inch or so. But it works. It works very well. In fact, I'm sure you could do better than this. Yep, same knife, 1 year and 3 months later.